All right, we're doing chapter 8 of The Secret of the Golden Flower, and we're using Thomas Cleary's translation. The last video I did, I compared Thomas Cleary's translation with Walter Sell's translation that is also available online. And I did that because it was a short chapter. Tonight, I might refer to Walter Sell's translation a little bit just to compare. For example, Thomas Cleary has this chapter as The Secret of Freedom is the name of the chapter, whereas Walter Sell has a secret spell for freedom. It's quite a different title. I mean, it's very similar, but it's also not the same. All right, so this chapter is quite long, so we're not gonna go for depth, we're gonna go for breadth tonight. It begins with a little poem, and here we go. Number 1, paragraph 1. Jadelike purity has left a secret of freedom in the lower world. Congeal the spirit in the lair of energy, and you'll suddenly see white snow flying in midsummer, the sun blazing in the water at midnight. Going along harmoniously, you roam in the heavens, then return to absorb the virtues of the receptive. You could say this is quite abstruse and mysterious, but you could say that, let's put it in Course in Miracles terms. Perfect love has a counterpart in this world, and the Course calls it the Holy Spirit. This calls it Jadelike purity. This is what I take, how I take this. Jadelike purity has left a secret of freedom in the lower world. So that's just maybe a way of saying that that purity is still here, right? It's still here. We just have to find it. I'm not going to go too much more into that, but paragraph 2, there is another line, a mystery within a mystery. Quote, the homeland of nothing whatsoever is the true abode. The depths of the mystery are all contained in a single measured verse. So the homeland of nothing whatsoever is the true abode. All right. That is quite mysterious. Paragraph 3. The essence of the great way, capital W, way as in Tao. I'm assuming this is a translation of Tao. The essence of the great way is to act purposefully without striving. Because of non-striving, one does not cling to local conventions, forms, or images. But because of not striving, yet acting purposefully, one does not fall into indifferent emptiness, dead voidness. The great way. You don't strive. You're not striving. You don't strive. It's kind of like the middle way, right? The Buddha's middle way. You let go of striving, but you also get things done. You're acting purposefully, and you're not getting into just pure indifference and nihilism, but you're not striving. There's nothing to seek, right? But you're still going for it. Paragraph 4. The function is all in the center, but the mechanism is all in the two eyes. The two eyes are the handle of the stars, which manages creation and operates yin and yang. The function is all in the center, but the mechanism is all in the two eyes. The two eyes are the handle of the stars. Let's see what the other translation says real quick. Let's see if we can. This is an interesting one. Then with both eyes, okay. The work of action through non-action is just focusing around the center. The essential mechanism of action through non-action is in the two eyes. The two eyes are like the handle of the Big Dipper, which manages creation and operates yin and yang. This sounds like a better translation to me. Action through non-action, focusing around the center. Now, it brings in the two eyes. I think the two eyes, again, are used for meditation, right, purposes. And what you're doing is you're focusing the two eyes at a point, right? So you're remaining concentrated at the point at which you're focusing, right? And it's a single point. And remember what the text was saying about being single-pointed, single-minded, or having a one-pointed focus as a very important, essential part of all this. Number 5, the major medicinal ingredient beginning to end is only the, quote, metal in the middle of primary water. That is the, quote, lead in the region of water. The preceding talk of turning the light around points out a method for beginners to control the inside from outside, thus helping them to attain independence. So now it's talking about, this is for beginners, and turning the light around. Gaining independence, gaining freedom through taking what is outside, what seems to be outside, and turning it back within oneself. I think that's what it's saying, you know. And that, again, the same thing with the Course in Miracles is that Course in Miracles is saying that you need your brother outside of yourself to help you, right? Without your brother, you could not see yourself, right? You could not understand. And you cannot understand the oneness without the help of your brother. That's a very important point in the Course. All right, you know, and I'm not saying this is what this is saying. I'm just saying, I'm trying to make a comparison, but you know, everyone will interpret this as they will interpret it. And I'm sure there are some who are kind of really know this text and could point out some things to us, but you know, we're just beginners here. Paragraph 6. This is for middling and lesser people cultivating the lower two passes in order to penetrate the upper pass. Now, as the way gradually becomes clear and mastery of the device gradually matures, heaven does not begrudge the way, but directly divulges the unsurpassed doctrine. Keep it confidential and work it out. This is for middling and lesser people cultivating the lower two passes in order to penetrate the upper pass. So we are middling and lesser people, but I think it's saying that even for us, we will mature in this practice, and heaven will not begrudge us, right? It will divulge the unsurpassed doctrine to us. So, don't give up hope. Paragraph 7, turning the light around is only the general term. With each level of progress and practice, the efflorescence of the light increases in magnitude, and the method of turning around becomes subtler. Previously, one controlled the inside from the outside. Now one abides in the center and controls the outside. Wow, that's profound. Before, the assistant administered for the master. Now one promulgates policy in service of the master. There has manifestly been a great reversal. All right, so the plot thickens. So it seems what this is saying is that, turning the light around is for beginners. is for rank beginners. But gradually this will become more subtle as you cultivate the practice. It'll become more and more subtle until it will enable you to control the external, which seems to be a kind of a magical power. You are more and more abiding in the center. I think that's the main point, is that abidance in the center. Paragraph 8, when you want to enter quietude, first tune and concentrate body and mind so that they are free and peaceful. Let go of all objects so that nothing whatsoever hangs on your mind, and the celestial mind takes its rightful place in this center. Let's read this one more time. When you want to enter quietude, first tune and concentrate body and mind so that they are free and peaceful. Let go of all objects so that nothing whatsoever hangs on your mind, and the celestial mind takes a rightful place in this center. All right, seems to be basic meditation instructions, right? You want to let go of all objects. Not the easiest thing to do, right? We have many objections to that. And it's not, when you sit to meditate, we all know that's not the easiest thing to do, to just be quiet and the mind, we tend to want to entertain different thoughts. The mind wanders almost inevitably. But anyway, we want the celestial mind to take its rightful place in the center. 9. After that, lower your eyelids and gaze inward at the chamber of water. Where the light reaches, true positive energy comes forth in response. We don't know what the chamber of water is, but let's go on. 10. Fire is yang outside and yin inside. So it is in substance the creative, with one yin inside ruling it, arousing mind according to things, going along out into habitual routines. Let's read what the other translation says. Before you enter quietude, first tune and concentrate body and mind. That's the same, so that you're quite free and at peace, letting go of the 10,000 entanglements. That's a little different. So that nothing whatsoever hangs on your mind, and the heavenly heart takes its rightful place in the center. Then lower the lids of the two eyes as if you received a holy edict, like a minister summoned to appear before the emperor. Who would dare disobey? Well, that's really different. Then with both eyes, one illumines the palace of Kan, water. Wherever the golden flower goes, true yang comes forth in response. The trigram Li, fire, is yang outside and yin inside. That's the same. Its origin is the creative equals heaven. Yin enters the creative and becomes master. The result is that the heart is aroused by things, is directed outward, and is tossed about on the stream. All right, let's go on. Now, when you turn the light around to shine inward, the mind is not aroused by things. Negative energy then stops, and the flower of light radiates a concentrated glow, which is pure positive energy. Right. So, again, this is pretty much standard, standard fare for meditation. You want to let go of the things, right? You want to let go of objects. You want to let go of. You want to see the light inside, and let go of the negative energy, but rest in the center, and see the flowering of the light, of the flower of life. This says the flower of light actually radiates a concentrated glow, which is pure positive energy. So you're moving from negativity to positivity, pure positivity. 12, correlates inevitably associate. So the positivity in water leaps up, whereupon it is not the positivity in water, but just the positivity in the creative itself, responding to the positivity in the creative. Once the two things meet, they join inextricably the living movement of creative energy, now coming, now going, now floating, now sinking. In the basic chamber in oneself, there is an ungraspable sense of vast space beyond measure, and the whole body feels wondrously light and buoyant. This is what is called, quote, clouds filling the 1,000 mountains. All right, so I think this is just more of what happens when you let go of the objects and the light begins to shine. In the basic chamber in oneself, there is an ungraspable sense of vast space beyond measure, and the whole body feels wondrously light and buoyant. This is what is called clouds filling the 1,000 mountains. Now, in the yogic texts, it also talks about becoming light and buoyant. So this is kind of a universal, right? You become lighter and lighter as you see the light within. All right, 13. Next, the coming and going is traceless. The floating and sinking are indiscernible. The channels are stilled. Energy stops. This is true intercourse. This is what is called, quote, the moon steeped in myriad waters. Okay. True intercourse. The moon and the waters are meeting, joining, making love. I guess that's the image that's being suggested there. 14, when the celestial mind first stirs in the midst of that utter darkness of the unknown, this is the return of initial positive energy. This is, quote, living midnight, unquote. So what transpires at this point should be explained in detail. Okay, we'll go on. 15, ordinarily, once people let their eyes and ears pursue things, they get stirred up, only to stop when things are gone. This activity and rest are all subjects, but the sovereign ruler becomes their slave. This is, quote, always living with ghosts, unquote. All right, so, this is kind of backtracking a little bit, I think, and saying you don't want to get caught up in the things, in the objects. Activity and rest. You don't want the sovereign ruler to become the slave of things. And this is called always living with ghosts. Paragraph 16. Now, if in all activity and rest you abide in heaven, while in the midst of humanity, the sovereign is then the real human being. When it moves, you move with it. The movement is the root of heaven. When it is at rest, you rest with it. The rest is the moon cavern. So, seems to suggest that whatever you're doing in life, wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, you're abiding in heaven, and you are a real human being, right? You've become a sovereign human being, a real sovereign human being. I think there's a connection with the yin energy because it keeps talking about the moon. But let's go on. 17. If the celestial mind keeps still and you miss the right timing and action, then that is an error of weakness. If you act in response to it after the celestial mind has acted, this is an error of staleness. You want to be in tune with the celestial mind, and you don't want to miss your moment, right? You don't want to miss your your line or your exit. I think there's a lot to this idea, of it's kind of like, I'll just give an example of, and this is kind of one that we're all familiar with, is when you're in a situation and you later on think, I should have said that, at that moment, I should have said that, I should have done that. Why didn't I? I didn't have the courage. I was, right. It's not in my sovereignty. I was not in the celestial mind, right? We don't usually think that way, but I'm just saying that we oftentimes regret what we said or didn't say in a particular instance. It's a lot of times we regret what we didn't say, what we thought we should have said, and we kind of hit ourselves over the head. Why didn't I say that? Once the celestial mind stirs, then use pure attention to raise it up to the chamber of the creative, with the light of spirit focused on the crown of the head to guide it. This is acting in time. So you want to act in the right time, right? Get it right in the moment. Strike while the iron is hot. 19, when the celestial mind is risen up to the peak of the creative, it floats upward of its own accord, then suddenly verges on utter quiescence. Immediately use pure attention to conduct it into the yellow court, as the light of the eyes is focused on the spiritual room in the center. Okay, I don't know if we need to get into the language here so much as just the general idea here, is that you're using pure attention and you're making the best of the moment, and you're coming into a place of quietude, quiescence. 20. Once about to enter utter quiescence, not a single thought is born. When gazing inward, suddenly one forgets the gazing. At that time, body and mind are in a state of great freedom, and all objects disappear without a trace. Then you don't even know where the furnace and cauldron in your spiritual room are. You can't even find your own body. This is the time when, quote, heaven enters earth, and, unquote, and all wonders return to the root. This is solidifying the spirit in the lair of energy. So you attain this place of thoughtlessness, no thoughts. Body and mind are free, great state of freedom, and all objects disappear. You've lost sense of your body. You've gone beyond your body. You've transcended your body. Maybe you've had this experience before. Paragraph 21. When you first practice turning the light around and your mind gets scattered or distracted, so you want to concentrate, your six senses are not used. This is called, quote, nurturing the root source, adding fuel to continue life, unquote. So your six senses, what is the sixth sense? I'm not sure what the sixth sense would be. We know what the five senses are, but so you go beyond your senses. I think that's the point. You go beyond your senses, right? When your mind gets distracted, you want to concentrate your mind and go beyond the senses. And this is called nurturing the root source, adding fuel to continue life. Paragraph 22, once concentration is attained, you are naturally buoyant and do not expend any strength. This is called, quote, settling the spirit in the original openness, gathering the primal together, unquote. Okay, getting to this place of concentration, concentrated mind, right? And when you get there, you're in a good spot. Let's just put it that way. 23, when even shadows and echoes have all disappeared and one is highly stabilized in profound tranquility, this is called, quote, hibernating in the lair of energy, all wonders returning to the root. So go beyond even the shadows and the echoes, right? Going beyond the great beyond. Wow, this is a long chapter. Okay. 24. These 3 stages are in each stage, so there are 9 stages in one stage. I will expound upon that later. For now, I will speak of 3 stages in one. So 3 stages in one, here we go. 25, during the nurturing and initial quieting, gathering is also nurturing and hibernating is also nurturing. At the end, nurturing is also hibernating. The stage in between can be figured out by analogy. Gathering is nurturing and hibernating is nurturing. We'll go on. 26. You do not change places, but places are distinguished therein. This is the formless opening, where all places are one place. You do not change times, but times are distinguished therein. This is time without a period, an interval of a world cycle of the original organization. All places are in one place. Times are you do not change times, but times are distinguished therein. This is time without a period, an interval of a world cycle of the original organization. That's pretty abstruse. Time and place, or time and space, are distinguished in it. We'll go on now. Let's just go on. 27. As long as the mind has not reached supreme quiet, it cannot act. Action caused by momentum is random action, not essential action. Therefore, it is said that action influenced by things is human desire, while action uninfluenced by things is the action of heaven. Okay, now it's making a little bit more sense. So when we're influenced by desires, by objects, by desires, we're not really acting, right? We're acting in a conditioned way, in a mindless way. But this is true action, what we're talking about. When we're uninfluenced by things, when we've gone beyond the objects, gone beyond the senses, that's the action of heaven. We've attained that. We've become one with, we've aligned ourselves with heaven. 28, this does not contrast the action of heaven to the nature of heaven. There is a line missing. After this, I'll explain the word desire. That's a weird one. We'd have to probably look at other translations. 29, desire is in considering things to exist or being possessive toward things. This is thought that is out of place, action with an ulterior motive. All right, so again, this is pretty clear cut. This is also like the Bhagavad Gita. If you act with desire, right, or from a state of with an ulterior motive, you are acting from a lower place. You're not in accordance with heaven. Heaven is action, non-action, non-action in action. Non-action means you do not have that ulterior motive. You do not have the desire. You let go of the desire and you just act free of desire. 30, when not a single thought arises, then true mindfulness is born. This is pure attention. When the celestial potential is suddenly activated in the midst of silent trance, is this not spontaneous attention? This is what is meant by acting without striving. Let's read this one more time. When not a single thought arises, then true mindfulness is born. This is pure attention. When the celestial potential is suddenly activated in the midst of silent trance, when the celestial potential is suddenly activated in the midst of silent trance, is this not spontaneous attention? This is what is meant by acting without striving. So again, this idea of acting without striving was mentioned at the beginning. This is the way to get to pure attention, right? You don't have any thought, right? Because there's no desire. You're not holding on to anything. You're not clinging to anything. And then spontaneous attention will happen spontaneously. Pure attention, real attention. 31. The first two lines of the verse at the beginning of this chapter wrap up the function of the golden flower. The next two lines refer to the interchange of sun and moon. Quote, midsummer, unquote, stands for the, quote, fire, unquote, of the trigrammatic book of change symbol fire. The, quote, white snow, unquote, is the true yin without fire, about to return to earth. Quote, midnight, unquote, is the water of water. The sun, the, quote, sun, unquote, is the single yang in the center of water, on the verge of blazing and returning to heaven. Herein lies, quote, in parentheses, or in brackets, the operation of spiritual alchemy known as, quote, taking from water to fill in fire, unquote. We'd have to really go into that and read the beginning again. I'm not sure, like I said, we're sacrificing depth for breath here. Let's just leave that for now. 32, the next two lines explain the function of the dipper handle, the whole mechanism of rising and descending. Does not, quote, in the water, unquote, refer to water. The eyes, as the breeze of wind, shine into the chamber of water and beckon the vitality of dominant yang. That is what these lines mean. So this is kind of taking a meta view of this chapter. It's like saying, now I'm going to explain to you what this chapter is about. And let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. And now you can understand what this chapter is talking about. Except I'm not sure if we do understand it, but you know, we're getting something here. We're getting something. 33, in quote, in the heavens, unquote, refers to the chamber of the creative. Quote, roaming and returning to absorb the virtues of the receptive, unquote, means nurturing the fire. I think it's still talking about the beginning of the chapter, which I don't think we're going to go back to the beginning right now. But you can do that if you want. 34. The last two lines point out the secret within the secret. The secret within the secret cannot be dispensed from start to finish. This is what is called cleaning the mind, washing the thoughts, which is, quote, bathing, unquote. Bathing the mind. Brainwashing. No. We're purifying the mind, right? Clearing and cleaning the mind, letting go of desire, letting go of possessiveness, letting go of the objects of the world, and not needing to hold on to anything. Letting go of striving, letting go of trying. Effortless effort. Paragraph 35, the learning of sages begins with knowing when to stop and ends with stopping at ultimate good. It begins in the infinite and winds up in the infinite. That's a nice one. I don't know if we need to say much about that. You gotta know when to stop, right? 36, in Buddhism, activating the mind without dwelling on anything is considered the essential message of the whole canon. In Taoism, quote, affecting openness, unquote, is the whole work of completing essence in life. In sum, the three teachings are not beyond one saying, which is a spiritual pill that gets one out of death and preserves life. It only mentioned two teachings there. It didn't mention three teachings. I don't know where the third is. I believe that it's also talking about Confucianism, but here it just mentions Buddhism, Taoism. All right, let's just go on. 37, what is the spiritual pill? It just means to be unminding in all situations. The great secret in Taoism is, quote, bathing, unquote. Thus, the whole practice described in this book does not go beyond the words, quote, emptiness of mind, unquote. It is enough to understand this. This single statement can save decades of seeking. Wow. That is also what the Course in Miracles says. It says this can save you a lot of time. If you just take this seriously, this is going to save you time. So this is saying the same thing. If you understand this one statement, emptiness of mind, right? What is emptiness of mind? Well, just knowing that that's where we're going is it could save you time. The spiritual pill. It's funny, to put it that way. It's like, take this pill. It will show you some things that you wouldn't see unless you took it. So it means, bathing means clearing the mind, clearing the mind. Thomas Cleary, paragraph 38. If you do not understand how 3 stages are included in one, for an analogy, let me use the Buddhist teaching of contemplating emptiness, the conditional, and the center. So there's 3 things: contemplating emptiness, the conditional, and the center. And this is going to teach you how, or show you how, 3 things are included in one. 3 stages are included in one. 39. First is emptiness. You see all things as empty. Next is the conditional. Though you know things are empty, you do not destroy the totality of things, but take a constructive attitude toward all events in the midst of emptiness. Once you neither destroy things nor cling to things, this is the contemplation of the center. So now those are the 3 stages. First, you begin with emptiness, that all things are empty. And then the conditional means you take a constructive attitude toward all events in the midst of emptiness. And finally, you rest in the center. You neither destroy nor cling to things. So you're in the middle, the center, right? You're in the center. And this is just like the Course. The Course begins, the workbook lessons begin with, nothing I see means anything, right? You're beginning with this idea of emptiness. Everything is empty of meaning, but you take a constructive attitude toward all events in the midst of emptiness. It doesn't mean that you stop acting. It just means that you act from that perspective of understanding the emptiness of all things. And then you rest in the center, right? The action in non-action. That would be the center. 40. When you are practicing the contemplation of emptiness, if you still know that the totality of things cannot be destroyed, and yet do not cling to them, this includes all 3 contemplations. All right, let's read that again. When you are practicing the contemplation of emptiness, if you still know that the totality of things cannot be destroyed, and yet do not cling to them, this includes all 3 contemplations. So you're not clinging, right? You're resting in the center. We'll go on. 41. Since empowerment, after all, means really seeing emptiness, when you cultivate contemplation of emptiness, emptiness is empty, the conditional is also empty, and the center is empty too. So you're in that place of emptiness, of realizing the emptiness. So all of this is empty. All these stages are also empty as well, which would have to follow if you see all things as empty, right? So this is included. 42. In practicing contemplation of the conditional, much of the empowerment is attained in action. So while the conditional is of course conditional, emptiness is also conditional, and the center is conditional too. So just as emptiness is seen in all three stages, so is the conditional seen in all three stages. And you can guess what's coming next, right? I would think that now it's going to say the center is in all three things. Let's see. 43, when on the way of the center, you still meditate on emptiness, but you don't call it emptiness, you call it the center. You also meditate on the conditional, but you don't call it the conditional, you call it the center. When you come to the center, there is no need to say. All right, I called it, man. I knew that was coming. All right, number 44. Although I sometimes speak only of fire, sometimes I also speak of water. Ultimately, they have never moved. With one saying, I open my mouth. The essential mechanism is all in the two eyes. This is already said, right? Everything is all in the two eyes. The mechanism means the function. You use this to manage creation. That was really hard to understand. We're going to go on. 45. This does not mean that is all there is to creation. All the faculties of sense and mind are minds of light. So how could we presume to take only the two eyes and not deal with the rest? Question is this a rhetorical question? It seems like it is a rhetorical question. Let's go on. Maybe it's going to explain it. 46. To use the yang of water, you use the light of fire to illumine and absorb it. This shows that the, quote, sun and moon, unquote, are originally one thing. That's a fascinating, right? And I mentioned before that yoga is often seen as the marriage of the sun and the moon, or the hatha yoga is seen as the marriage of the sun and the moon. And this is getting at the idea that the sun and moon are originally one thing, right? The yin and the yang together. The sun usually is the yang and the moon is usually the yin. This is saying that they're originally one. 47, the darkness in the sun is the vitality of the true moon. The, quote, moon cavern, unquote, is not on the moon, but on the sun. That is why it is called the, quote, moon cavern, for otherwise it would be enough just to say the moon, the, quote, moon, unquote. I think this is getting at the Tai Chi symbol, right? The yin-yang symbol, where the yin includes the yang and the yang includes the yin. 48, the white of the moon is the light of the true sun. The sunlight being on the moon is what is called the, quote, root of heaven, unquote. Otherwise, it would be enough just to say heaven. I think that's what this is getting at, is that the sun is in the moon and the moon is in the sun. Right? Yin is in yang and yang is in yin. 49, when the sun and moon are separated, they are but half. Only when they come together do they form a whole. This is like the case of a single man or a single woman who cannot form a family living alone. Only when there are husband and wife do they amount to a family. So this again is bringing up this idea, the yin is usually the feminine and the yang is usually the masculine. The sun is usually the masculine, the moon is usually the feminine. You bring the two together and you get one fine-looking sun and moon together. Or you could say, it's like if you've seen the Tai Chi symbol, right, of the yin and the yang together. They're one unit. They're a family unit. 50. We're finally at the end here. Paragraph 50, but it is hard to represent the way concretely. If a man and a woman are separated, they are still individuals. But if the sun and moon are separated, they do not form a complete whole. What I am saying just brings out the point of communion, so I do not see duality. You just cling to the separation, so the separation is taken over your eyes.